It was a typical Thursday afternoon in downtown Los Angeles. The sun was starting to dip below the skyline, casting long shadows on the streets as rush hour began to pick up. Keanu Reeves, dressed in his usual unassuming jeans and a t-shirt, cruised down the road in his modest car, his mind wandering. He had just finished a film project and was looking forward to some quiet time when the fuel gauge on his dashboard blinked red. He pulled into the nearest gas station, a small, older place with peeling paint and a couple of pumps that had seen better days. Keanu wasn't a fan of the flashy, overpriced stations near Hollywood, preferring these more humble, down-to-earth spots where people didn't bother him. The sound of tires crunching on gravel as he parked was interrupted by a young woman, older than 25, filling up a car at the neighboring pump. She wore a faded uniform, her hair pulled back into a tight ponytail, and her face was flushed with exhaustion. As Keanu got out of his car, he noticed something that caught his eye. She was noticeably pregnant, her belly round and heavy with the weight of a child. Despite her condition, she was hustling, moving swiftly between cars, cleaning windows, pumping gas, and even directing customers with a cheery smile that didn't seem to match the exhaustion etched on her face. Keanu paused for a moment, watching her from a distance. Something about the sight made him feel uneasy. He had seen people work hard before, but this felt different. This woman wasn't just working. She was pushing herself to the limit, her hands trembling slightly as she wiped down a windshield. He approached the counter to pay for his gas, but as he did, he overheard a conversation between her and the station's manager. "Take it easy, Maria," the manager said, his voice gruff. "You shouldn't be lifting that much. Go take a break." But Maria, with a tired but determined smile, shook her head. "I'm fine. Just a few more minutes, then I can rest." Keanu's heart sank. The manager didn't seem to care, and Maria was clearly too afraid to stop. It was then that Keanu made a decision that would forever change the course of her day, and maybe even her life. He waited for Maria to finish helping a customer before he casually approached her. "Hey," he said, his voice soft but deliberate. Maria looked up, startled to see him standing there. She quickly wiped her hands on her apron, unsure if she was about to get scolded for anything. But Keanu simply smiled at her. "I couldn't help but notice you've been working nonstop. You're doing an amazing job, but are you sure you're okay?" he asked, his gaze warm and sincere. Maria blinked, surprised that a man of his stature, someone she immediately recognized from the movies, would be paying attention to her at all, let alone asking such a personal question. "Oh, thank you," she stammered, unsure how to respond. "I'm fine. Just need to finish up and then I'll take a break. I'm not one to slow down." Keanu raised an eyebrow, his face serious now. "Maria, you're pregnant. You need to be careful. You've got a little one inside you. Don't push yourself too hard." She looked away, a faint blush rising to her cheeks. "I don't really have a choice. My shifts are long and I'm the only one here who can pick up the extra hours. Things are tight and I just want to make sure everything is ready for when the baby comes." Keanu didn't say anything for a moment, his eyes studying her with empathy. He reached into his pocket, pulled out his wallet, and took out a stack of bills. "I don't want to be intrusive, but I'm going to make sure you get a break today," he said, pressing the money into her hand. "Take the rest of the day off. Go home. I'll pay for the rest of your shift." Maria stared at the bills in shock, her mouth falling open. She had never expected this, not from anyone, let alone Keanu Reeves. "Wait, what? You can't be serious." Keanu smiled softly, his voice gentle. "I am. No one should have to work like this while they're carrying a child. Go take care of yourself." Maria's eyes welled with tears as she looked down at the money in her hand. Thank you so much. You don't know what this means to me. I don't even know how to thank you." Keanu gave her a simple nod. "You don't need to. Just promise me you'll take care of yourself. You deserve it." With that, he turned and walked back to his car, leaving Maria standing there, overwhelmed by the kindness of a complete stranger. As she stood frozen for a moment, the weight of the situation settled on her. Here was a man who could have bought anything in the world, Yet he chose to do something simple, something selfless for her. Keanu drove away, the sound of his engine fading into the distance, but Maria couldn't shake the warmth that lingered in her chest. As she walked toward the break room to sit down for the first time that day, she felt something she hadn't felt in months. Hope. As Maria sat down in the break room, still holding the money in her hands, she couldn't stop thinking about what had just happened. It was more than just the financial relief, it was the recognition. The simple act of kindness from someone she had only seen on the silver screen had made her feel valued in a way she hadn't in a long time. She leaned back in her chair, staring at the small window that overlooked the pumps. Her thoughts wandered to her pregnancy, to the life growing inside her, and to the challenges she had been facing. It wasn't just the physical exhaustion, it was the worry. The pressure of making ends meet, the stress of balancing work and preparing for a new life. She had been pushing herself harder than she should, trying to hold everything together on her own. But today, Keanu had reminded her that she didn't have to carry the weight alone. His unexpected gesture of generosity had given her a brief, but precious moment of relief. It wasn't just the money, it was the feeling that someone cared. A few minutes later, the manager came into the break room, looking confused but concerned. "Maria," he said, his voice softer than usual. "You okay? I saw what happened out there. I wasn't expecting someone like him to step in. That's not something you see every day." Maria smiled faintly, still in a bit of disbelief. I can't believe it either. I don't know what to say." "You don't have to say anything," he replied. "But maybe it's time you took a break for the rest of the day. Go home. I'll take care of the shift." Maria hesitated. She had never allowed herself to take an extended break. Not when she knew the bills were piling up and time away from the job felt like a luxury. But after what had just happened, she realized it wasn't just about money. It was about her well-being, too. Keanu had seen something in her, and maybe it was time to see it in herself. "All right," she said quietly, a sense of calm settling over her. "I'm going to take the rest of the day off." As she gathered her things and stepped out of the gas station, the cool evening air felt refreshing. She paused for a moment outside, taking a deep breath and gazing up at the sky. The world felt a little less heavy now, as if something had shifted within her. Keanu's kindness had ignited something inside her, a desire to prioritize herself and her future. Maybe she wasn't alone in this after all. Maybe there were people out there who understood, even when it felt like the weight of the world was on her shoulders. Later that evening, as Maria sat in her apartment, she reflected on the strange and unexpected encounter. She couldn't have known that the man who had changed her outlook on life would be a star. But in a way, Keanu had done more than just help her financially. He had shown her that kindness could come from anyone, anywhere. That sometimes the smallest gesture could have the biggest impact. As the days went by, Maria began to take better care of herself. She started resting more, taking breaks when she needed them, and even finding time to relax. She knew that with a baby on the way, she couldn't afford to burn herself out. Keanu's unexpected act had given her the strength to make choices that would benefit both her and her growing family. Months later, when Maria's baby was born, she named her daughter Kira, not just after Keanu, but as a symbol of the kindness that had brought light into her life when she needed it most. As the months passed, Maria's life began to settle into a rhythm. Her baby girl, Kira, was thriving, and Maria found herself more in control than ever before. The overwhelming exhaustion that had once clouded her thoughts was replaced with a newfound sense of peace. It wasn't that life was perfect. There were still financial struggles and late nights, but Maria was learning to navigate them with a calm determination she hadn't known before. One afternoon, as Maria was walking through a park with Kira in her stroller, her phone buzzed. She glanced down and her heart skipped a beat. The message was from an unknown number. "Hi Maria, this is Keanu. I hope you and Kira are doing well. I just wanted to check in and see how things are going." Maria's hands trembled slightly as she read the message again, trying to process it. How did he even have her number? She thought about the kindness he had shown her that day at the gas station and the way he had completely changed her outlook on life. She had never expected to hear from him again, let alone receive a message like this. She quickly typed a response. Keanu, wow. I can't believe you're reaching out. Things are going well, actually. Kira's growing so fast, and I've been taking better care of myself thanks to you. I'll never forget what you did for me that day. The response came almost immediately. I'm really glad to hear that, Maria. I've been thinking about you. You're doing great, and I just wanted to remind you that you're not alone. If you ever need anything, I'm here. Maria's eyes welled up with tears. It was one thing to receive kindness in the moment, but to know that someone genuinely cared months later, it felt like a safety net, a reminder that kindness was not just a fleeting thing. The weeks following that message, Maria felt a deeper connection to the idea that people who truly cared could make all the difference in the world. She started sharing her story with others, encouraging them to be mindful of how they treated people. The words, "You're not alone," became a mantra for her, something she passed on to other women, other people struggling just as she had. One afternoon, Maria received an unexpected invitation. It was from Keanu's assistant, inviting her and Kira to a special event he was hosting, an outreach program focused on supporting struggling families. Keanu wanted to meet her and hear her story in person. The event was held at a large community center, filled with tables stacked with donations, resources for families in need, and a number of volunteers helping with everything from childcare to career advice. When Maria arrived, she felt a wave of nervousness wash over her, but she reminded herself that this was the kind of environment she had longed for, where people cared, where they helped one another. As she entered the event, she spotted Keanu immediately. He was standing near a group of people, speaking quietly to a woman who was holding a young child. His presence was calming, but what struck Maria most was the way he engaged with everyone, like he wasn't just there to help, but to listen. When he saw Maria, he excused himself from the conversation and made his way over to her. Kira was nestled in her stroller, happily playing with a small toy in her lap. "Maria," Keanu said with a soft smile, "I'm so glad you could make it." Maria couldn't help but smile back, overwhelmed with emotion. "Keanu, I can't believe I'm here with you like this. You've done so much for me, and now this. It means more than I can say." Keanu knelt down to Kira's level, offering her a friendly wave. "And this must be Kira. She's a beautiful little girl. I'm so glad you're both doing well." Maria felt her heart swell as Kira shyly reached out a small hand toward him. Keanu gently shook it, his eyes twinkling. "I was hoping to hear more about your journey, Maria," Keanu said, standing up again and motioning toward a quieter corner of the room. "If you'd like to share your story with me, I'd love to know how things have been for you." As they sat down, Maria shared the journey of her life since that fateful day at the gas station. She told him about the small steps she had taken to take care of herself and her daughter, how she had found support from unexpected places, and how the kindness Keanu had shown her had been the catalyst for so much change. "I can't thank you enough," Maria said, her voice shaky with emotion. "What you did for me didn't just change my day, it changed my life. It made me realize that there are people who truly care." Keanu smiled softly. "I'm glad to hear that. But remember, Maria, you did the hard work. I just gave you a little push in the right direction." Maria shook her head. "No. You made me believe I could do it. You showed me that even when things seem impossible, there's always hope. And that's something I'll never forget." Keanu gave her a sincere nod. "I'm proud of you, Maria. You're doing an amazing job." As the event wrapped up, Maria felt an overwhelming sense of gratitude. Keanu had not only given her the resources and encouragement she needed, but had also created an environment where families like hers felt seen, supported, and valued. It was rare to experience something so profound, and Maria knew she would carry this moment with her forever. As she was about to leave, Keanu approached her one last time. "I just wanted to say again," he said, his voice gentle, "I believe in you, Maria. And if you ever need anything, don't hesitate to reach out." Maria felt her throat tighten. She had come to this event feeling uncertain, unsure of what to expect. But as she stood in front of Keanu, the man who had turned her world upside down with his kindness, she realized that the biggest gift he had given her wasn't money or material things. It was hope. Hope for herself, for her daughter, and for a brighter future. As they said their goodbyes and she wheeled Kira out of the community center, Maria glanced over at the other families gathered there. The moment felt full circle, a reminder that, in the end, it wasn't about fame or fortune. It was about the human connection, the moments when one person can impact another's life in the most unexpected and meaningful way. A few weeks later, Maria received an invitation that left her speechless. It was from Keanu's team, asking her to speak at an upcoming charity event he was hosting. They wanted her to share her story, the journey of hardship, and the power of kindness that had carried her through it all. The idea of speaking in front of a crowd, especially at such a high-profile event, was daunting. But Keanu's unwavering support gave her the courage to say yes. On the day of the event, Maria stood backstage, her heart pounding in her chest. The room was filled with influential people, all gathered to support causes that mattered. Keanu was there too, sitting at the front, his smile reassuring. As Maria stepped onto the stage and began to speak, she felt a deep sense of purpose. She shared her story, the struggles she faced as a young mother working at a gas station, and how one unexpected act of kindness had changed everything. She spoke about how Keanu's gesture had been a lifeline for her, but more importantly, how it had given her the courage to help others in her community. When she finished, the room was silent for a moment before a wave of applause erupted. Maria's hands trembled as she stood there, realizing that she had not only overcome her fears but had also become an inspiration to others. Keanu was on his feet, clapping along with the rest of the crowd. His pride in her was evident, and Maria's heart swelled with gratitude. Afterward, Keanu approached her backstage, his eyes gleaming with pride. "You did it, Maria. You're amazing." Tears welled up in Maria's eyes as she hugged him. "I never would have believed I could do something like this, but you made me believe in myself." Keanu smiled warmly. "I didn't do anything. You did all the work. I'm just glad I could help you find your voice." Maria left the event that night with more than just the applause of a room full of strangers. She left with a newfound sense of purpose, with a reminder that kindness could spark change in ways no one could predict. And as she looked down at Kira, now sleeping peacefully in her stroller, Maria knew that the seeds of hope had been planted in her life, and she would pass that legacy of kindness on to her daughter, just as Keanu had passed it on to her. In the years that followed, Maria became involved in community outreach programs helping other mothers and families in need. She spoke at events, shared her story, and continued to spread the message of compassion and kindness. And through it all, she never forgot the man who had made it all possible, a man who had taken the time to notice her, to care, and to show her that even the smallest act of kindness could make all the difference. Keanu's impact on her life rippled out, affecting not only her future, but the future of countless others who heard her story. Maria had learned that sometimes the world changes not through grand gestures but through quiet, meaningful acts of kindness that inspire others to do the same.